In today's video, we go beyond any other YouTuber and tear apart the Oupes Mega 1 battery pack. And it does work well, like other people have said, it runs tools very well, but there are a few issues with it, particularly with repairability. There's a lot of stickers on it that hide screws, and you obviously would avoid the warranty with that. It should be more repairable. And then also, it consumes a lot of power when it's running. So if you have it connected to a 50-watt solar panel, it slowly drains. And it's not great for tiny devices because it just consumes so much power at idle. You only get maybe 10 hours out of it. But when you're running something big, like a big saw, a big drill press, charging a scissor lift works great. Another thing is I noticed this does not have any air filters on it. You can see some of this mortar dust which accumulated here when I was cutting mortar, and that just gets right into there. So even though this thing can weld, it can run anything, it is putting all that dust inside of here, and I kind of hate that. I also did not do a vibration test on it just yet, but I'm slowly doing that as I use it. The other battery pack that I reviewed from a different brand, I ended up killing because I strapped it to a bicycle. If you're going to be putting this into a high-stress environment where it takes very hard bumps like that, I might actually recommend laying it down because all of the surface mount components are in this direction, and the biggest issue is whenever the capacitors have momentum on them and then they twist. So if you're going to be having this, let's say in a cart that rams something, maybe face this away from the moment of impact. But as for running tools, this has been running very well. Well, here's the video of the review, starting with me first getting it and running some appliances with it. Well, look what came in the mail. Yet another power bank. And on the side of the box, and the numbers also suggest, it can run appliances. So let's not charge it up. Let's keep it at the 63% that it's at. And let's see if we can run a toaster oven with it or the microwave. So I have my heart set on some chicken patties in the toaster oven. But for now, let's test out the microwave with some water at 77 degrees Fahrenheit, 25 degrees Celsius. I forgot how tall that glass is. Ooh, that sounds weird. Okay, it's done now. Doesn't have that weird sound. This is working really well. Hmm. 98, 37 degrees Celsius. I will not be drinking that water. The magic nuggets, 2 chicken patties, set to bake to 400 degrees Fahrenheit. Interesting, so this thing's 800 watts. At least the heating elements that are engaged are. So this is the Oupes Mega 1. That takes a lot of power. And, you know, now that I think about it, I believe it's like a 48 volt battery. Here's the specifications. Okay, so it's a 51.7 volt battery actually. So that means it's not nearly as much of a step up for 120 volt AC. It's also good for me to start this in the middle because, you know, you never know. Like, if somebody tested this at 100%, Would it stop at 80%? Well, it at least works at 50%. So that's pretty good to know. I'm curious if that'll reach temperature and if it will, you know, like stop taking as much power. But I feel like these toaster ovens are really wasteful with their energy. Okay, so obviously that is really hot. Every time the video freezes, I'll probably have to, well, I mean, actually, Theis will probably have to edit it. Now, we do have some heat coming off of the, well, is it coming off of the, okay, no, it's not. It's just the exhaust. You know, I think the weakest link is just this cable for our toaster oven. Yeah. They really do love just having thin cables for these. Oh yeah, and I'm gonna look on the back too. Something down the bottom there. Maybe, yeah. Maybe heatsink. This side stays cool, so I believe this is the inlet side. Oh, nice. Okay, so it finally reached temperature. I'm actually really happy to see 120 volts. Oh, now we're pulling load. And it's still 120 volts. Because the other one that I reviewed, it was like 110 volts, and some things were having issues with that. So that's interesting. But that's a good voltage. To cook those, well, used about 1/5 of the battery, if we're being generous. I was figuring, let's try running the coffee machine off of that. Coffee isn't really my thing, but since you make it, I'll have a little bit. Years ago, the only coffee I would have is my great-grandmother would make me coffee either on Thanksgiving or New Year's. And then when she died, I said, well, that's it. She's my coffee lady. I don't like coffee that much, but now I have a new coffee lady, so I let my new coffee lady make me coffee, even though I like tea a lot more. Okay. Shall we?
Ready?
Yep. Okay, about 900 watts. We're starting at 38%. Ooh, it's saying only 21 minutes of runtime. I don't know how long it takes to brew a cup of coffee. I'm kind of curious, like, if you had to, well, first of all, to run your morning routine with this, if because a lot of people do coffee, a lot of people will toast something in the toaster oven, or at least that's the most egregious use of electricity there. And but then also, I know a lot of people do like glamping or whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah. So. Of course, then I'm gonna have to try to weld with this. Boy, inverters have come a long way since like 10 years ago. Oh, good. It does turn off. So it's not all the time.
Oh, thanks for your input.
Honk honk. Now I'm curious to know, how much power does it take just sitting there and warming up? So we're down at 26%. I'm curious if we can still do other things at 26%. It's been like 45 minutes or so, and it just keeping the coffee warm has used up down to 17%. It's been cloudy for like 15 days now, and I had wanted to film the rest of this video when we could charge it off solar, but we're gonna have to make do and charge it with maybe the 20 watts of power that we can get from the solar. So right now we have my amp and vent charge controller putting in the 37 volts into the input side from the panels that are on the roof. And with this, they have a connector on the outside that's actually, you know what? Now's a good time. I'm going to switch over to helmet cam. I made this for the e-bike videos, but we can just use it for this. Forgot I brought that in. Have the helmet cam on, and we have this. So the Oupes Mega 1 comes with 2 power cables, one of which is a normal 12-volt automotive plug. So honestly, I'm just going to take this apart and we're going to feed power directly into the inlet, because I don't have any of these. I believe they're Anderson connectors. Now let's check to make sure. Good. So they are the correct way around. You have to check these sorts of things. Now normally what I would do is actually disconnect these wires, because, oh no, I didn't actually update that, never mind. So if I had my solar panels set up how I wanted, these would be 2 different solar panels on that, but that's not how that is, I forgot. Okay. So I have it connected up, but I do worry that this is going to be taking a little bit of power. These 2 batteries are already fully charged, so I'm just going to disconnect them. And that turns off the charge controller. When I connect this up, okay, we get 37 volts. So let's disconnect this. Let's take this. There we go. Okay. Let's see if we'll make it angry. Oh, 15 watts, 17 watts, not bad. That's not bad at all. Sorry for the head wobble, but that's really not bad. So let's just say 1% of this is 100 watt hours. It would take 5 hours to get back 1%. Still though, for the amount of use that I'm actually going to be using this for, that won't be so bad. And then of course, later on, that'll jump to 300 watts and this will be fully charged. But on a super cloudy day, these panels are doing a really good job. So what do you guys think of the new helmet cam? I might be using it more than just for e-bikes. Well guys, it's pretty much sunset behind the clouds, and I have some unfortunate news. Previously, oh yeah, look at that, only 9%. Previously, whenever I came in here after about 45 minutes, it was down to 16%. That's no good. So it's actually wasting more energy than it's getting. And it was getting 19 watts at that time. Yeah, it's just no good. So it wasted power instead of using power. And I kept coming down here and turning off the LCD, but it kept turning on. Well, that's unfortunate. So this is not very efficient in that regards. Well, I'll leave it connected up, and we'll just have to leave it be until, oh, you know what? This is, max 13 amps. Oh, that's probably gonna fry it. So I'm going to disconnect that. Because if we do get a sunny day, that very well might fry this thing. Well, guys, we actually have a little bit of intermittent sun the next day. And so I think I'll come up here. Oh, I did split it off. I, for some reason, thought I didn't. Okay, so I don't need to disconnect it up here. I can actually go down there. And since this set of panels goes to one wire in the strand and this set of panels goes to the other, I can just remove one of the wires and that'll disconnect two panels. Because these are originally 175 watt panels each. They're now 150. So this is 600 watts of panels, and I think that would be way too much power for that. So we're gonna cut it down to 300 watts. Since the sunlight is coming out from behind the clouds every so often in full, I would hate to blast this thing and blow it up. So we should just get whatever the two panels give. So it's 9%. I just pulled out the one wire. $60, $70, $80. Yeah, there's a little more power. It would already be taking 160 watts, 200 watts by this point if we had both panels connected up. So 120. 129. I hope this thing does turn off if it gets too much power. With this, it should be 1% every 50 minutes or so, I think. Yeah, something like that. Because 100 watt hours, 1024 watt hours. Yeah, something like that. So we'll let that go and we'll see, can you get it to not discharge itself with at least 70 watts? Because before with the 20 watts, that was quite a bit of a dip. Obviously, because this is a 48 volt pack or 52 volt pack, it has to take that power and step it up. And so it actually wasted more power doing that action of stepping it up than it actually got. All right, I grabbed a brush. Let's see how much the dirt on that changes the sunlight. I was going to install the Oupes app, but it requires an account, and I don't feel like making an account. I actually am a little bit against it. I'm kind of hiding that fact. So, 111 watts. Let's run up real quick. Oh, like this. We'll be like that guy that Bill at the 1925 house watches, that Australian plumber guy that like walks like this. Okay, well. Now the funny thing is I don't know which panel setup is the ones I'm pulling power from, but this will do. I'll just do both at the same time and quickly do it. Okay. I'm gonna go down without breaking my neck. It's funny, I always slow down on the ladder. I feel like the sun's out a little bit more, so it's going to be an elevated number. 150. I imagine we probably got another 5 watts out of that, but the sun also came out, so that's upped our number. But still, 150. Not too bad. I actually need to do a little bit of work. So, 18%. Just gonna borrow this real quick. Okay, that's all I needed. And then 17. Didn't lose hardly any power at all. Back to widescreen. And, oh. This thing's definitely not light enough for me to want to have on my e-bike. Well, to be honest, let's see. Okay, actually, it could fit on a big cargo bike quite well, actually. But I think I would pick a smaller maybe 400 watt one for the e-bike. It's been a few days and I've had a few issues with this power pack. Things that I had to learn about it. I would plug it in, set it charging. It was charging at like 150 watts. And then I would forget about it for a few hours. And I come back at sunset and it had already dipped down to 10 or 20 watts. So it wasted all the power that it put into it. And I only got like maybe 5% per. It's uses a lot of power to be on, and it has to be on to charge. So I was reading the manual and I realized, all right, you're supposed to be able to plug this into a car. So I can have this charging a regular battery and then have the battery run into it, and it can sip off of the 13 volts. And look at that, it's doing great. The panels are only putting in 35 watts, and right now it would start counting back down. But because it's taking from the battery, that's perfectly fine. I'm gonna leave this going overnight. I know it's going to take a bit too much power, but oh well, it'll give it a chance to top it off and balance charge it overnight. So that'll be good on this. And then tomorrow, it actually works out. Tomorrow is yet another day that the building that I do mortar work on won't be occupied, so I can do the mortar work without annoying anybody inside with the grinding sound. Okay, let's come back tomorrow. Oh, look at that! 50 kilowatt hours. That was such a milestone. It took me several years in my Solar Sunday series to get to that. And now, look at us. We've gotten there in just a few months of messing around. Okay, it's the next day, and I hope this thing is fully charged. Okay. Now, we got some work to do. Let's test out some tools first in the workshop, and then I'm going to see if this can run my mortar cutter. All right, so the smaller battery pack that I tested a month ago, it was able to start this up, but very slowly. So let's see how this does. Okay, only a little bit slower than grid power. Grid power is like maybe 10% faster, but this is pretty good. There's a bit of a buzzing sound, but that's obviously how this is stepping down the voltage. I believe the other one has to go down to like 50 volts, and it just barely doesn't mess up. But this one probably goes only down to like 100 volts. So that's pretty good. Now, let's try welding with it. I've never been able to have a battery pack that I could weld with yet. I'm just gonna set this up to do a quick little weld. And by no means is this a big welder, but it's probably the perfect thing for this. I've done quite a bit with this welder. Now I still have it set to the same adjustments that I had for a neighbor's weld that I did. But I'm just gonna see what happens. See if it, this is what happened whenever I ran it on my 1500 watt inverter. It just shut off. And I didn't even try any smaller battery banks, so this is the first one I'm trying. Let's see if it does. Perfect. The weld wasn't perfect, it burned right through, but I was kind of having fun with that. But that worked perfectly. Oh, that is so nice. So yeah, I'm pretty happy with that. It's one of those things where once it gets to that point, it'll be good for a while. Now, let's try the mortar cutter. That should be less of an issue. Many people might not have seen this tool before. It is a reciprocator that makes the blades chew away like that. Okay. I'm actually going to mount it onto this extender, and then I'll move that further away. So we're at 85% charge, which kind of mirrors my ability to keep using this tool, because I cannot use this tool all day. It just uses your whole body. So I'm going to do up to here maybe, or maybe just here. And then I'll switch to the short blade, and then I'll come back down doing the verticals. And then we'll probably do some over here, because some other day I'm going to come back and I'll do the mortar work. I've decided I'm not going to do the cutting and the putting the mortar back in on the same day, because otherwise I have to have way too many tools out. And instead for this, I cut it out one day and then I put the new mortar in the next day, and that makes things work so much better. Baltimore Avenue, 66%. Okay, 66%. I'm a bit tired today, but I kind of wanted to do it today, so I'm just doing about 2 hours. I already did an hour and a half. Maybe I'll do another hour and a half, I don't know. Well, that is all I can do in one day. It's a little too much, to be honest. Let's see how we're doing. 37% left. Well, for something like that, it works out pretty well, but if you're running table saws and stuff, this might drain a little too fast for your taste. Now, thankfully, they have expansion batteries for this. They just hook up on the side right here. It's been a little bit, and I keep using this battery for various projects. Work has gotten a little bit crazier. We got some bigger tools, and this has been keeping up very well. This can run my circular saw even when it's down to 18%. So that's really good. I'm going to turn it off. I think that's probably the point at which I should stop using this and we should take it apart. As things tend to go, the work did not stop, and I'm still able to use tools down to 5%. I'd say that's pretty good. So the entire building has been without power for several hours, and unfortunately we're down 2 packs. We're down that pack because we didn't have the batteries to replace it, and this one got way too hot. I had to take it out of service, I think. Ooh, I don't know. We have 5 hours, 50 minutes. I hope power comes back before then. Isn't it funny that the best laid plans and all that? So my other battery was fully charged and broke. The Oupes has not broken yet, but I haven't also taken it on my e-bike. See, the other one broke because I had it strapped to the back of my e-bike and it rattled it too much. Well, I've been running this thing down specifically because I want to take it apart. Well, now, when it's dead, I have to start using it to run these lights. This is annoying because otherwise it's just too dark in here. Power's been off for 2 hours, and you know the nickel cadmium batteries in these, or nickel metal hydride, they aren't meant to last 2 hours for the LED lights. So we're sucking power back in. We're using 29 watts, and we're taking in 105 watts or thereabout. And taking it in from this battery. We got this little propane generator out. How do you turn this thing off? Well, I guess this is one way. Okay, so I guess there's no off button on there. Anyway, so let's see. This is still going. 9%. I'm glad I didn't charge up too much because I still want to take this thing apart. And this is only down to 50%. Very nice. Now comes a section where I'm going to take it apart, and I feel a lot better now that it's discharged, but I wish I hadn't discharged it right as the power went out. But even without it being full, having a battery next to it, it was still pretty useful because it could feed power into it while it powered other things. Now on the side, we have what looks like 2mm hex bolts, and then we have Phillips head bits over here. I've undid all the screws in the back, and I've undid the screws on the side, and it still isn't coming apart. I noticed that there's a sticker on the top that I will have to cut, and then also the sticker on the base goes between the two pieces. I'll have to put that as a mark against repairability because they want you to, I guess, avoid the warranty. I doubt this is structural. I hope it's not structural. They should be held together by these screws. So why put this in a position where you can't open it up? Found this on the side of the road years ago. What I usually do is I flex it so I can see how is it moving and where does it seem like it's connected. Well, would you look at that? There's a, there must be a screw hole right here. Yeah, this definitely is not going to score high on the repairability. Yeah, that's a shame. Okay, now that I have those 8 screws out, it is minor, but it is also important that you cannot open it up to repair it without damaging the seals. They are maliciously placed. Now that we have it open, we can look at the internals. So we have these cells. Looks like they have writing on them. I wonder if they did tests. And this is 2024. These are some very big cells. I would love to take those out, but they're tied to a pretty competent inverter. The only issue is it takes like 60 watts at all times, as opposed to the inverters that I use on all my experiments, like that one, which only takes 4 watts. This shielding is interesting. So it could keep dust from getting on other things. I do worry though about metal fibers and other powder and sparks, like if I'm welding or grinding, getting into here. That could be an issue. I don't see any filters. Yeah, there's no filters. There should be a filter. As with the previous power pack that I reviewed, it looked great, but then as soon as I gave it some rough and tumble abuse, it had something fail inside of it. And so these probably aren't designed to handle really rough abuse. In that case, I had it on the back of a bicycle. And after only going 3 miles, it became flaky. This one, there's a lot of daughter boards and things hanging off of things. Interesting. Overall, once inside, the connectors are well done. And I appreciate how they've used these types of connectors so you can undo it. If it weren't for the stickers, then this would be much more easily repairable. And I'm curious, does this seem to... I don't know if that really affects that. I would like to plug in, I guess it would be a UART connector or something into that. That's interesting. JTAG or whatever it is. We have some extra connectors here. 24 volts plus, 24 volts minus. So that's for something else. Presumably for fans here. Yeah, I believe 24 volt fans. So it looks like it's an added feature to have fans on the other side as well. I did notice that there is elevated dirt around there. This would be mortar dust, and so that has sucked in some of that lime dust from the building work. Now I wonder what this button is. This is on the other side. That's interesting. So there's a button. Maybe we should test it sometime. I found myself in a bad situation where this is a useful tool, so I don't want to destroy it. I respect it as a tool. It's not a great replacement for like a solar panel system, but it is good for powering heavy duty items on a construction site, something that I do have to do quite a bit. Because it always consumes about 50 or 60 watts of power just to be powered on, that makes it a very bad choice for direct solar charging, but being connected to a battery, it ends up working out. I've taken time to look over it, and I am pleased by the design. I just wish that they would have different sticker placement. Don't be afraid to have the stickers accessible without modifying and destroying, having the screws accessible without modifying and destroying the stickers. I think that's a dishonest engineering tactic. Also, I think having filters would be important. You know, some people get upset whenever I complain about products, but I'm not just gonna love everything I get. I'm gonna tear into it like the product development person I am. Okay, so, well, I hope these all stay in. I'm glad to see it still works. I'm gonna put it back together and just leave this top the way it is, I guess. But yeah, that's gonna attract so much dirt. I hate this. Let's see, how well does this go back? Well, first of all, I have it upside down. Of course, doing it one-handed is not the right way to do it. Well, this is going to take forever. You don't have to film this.
Yeah.
I was able to speed it up by just holding this in the chuck of my drill. Worked pretty well. Had an issue getting this back on the bottom, but it was able to slide back on. Judging by how the screws loosened up over time, I've taken these out 3 times now. They might not last more than, say, 12 times of being opened, so that gives an idea of if you have to open it every 3 years, then maybe these last 35 years just with the case. Something to keep in mind. I hope that any battery, any power station built like this should be able to last 35 years. That's my desire. It's the next day, and I'm just letting it trickle charge a little bit. If I fed 24 volts into it, that would be pretty good. And plus, another way to charge this is directly off wall power. But first of all, I like running off solar. All these batteries I charge with solar. And then also, I don't have the cable here at the workshop. It's at home. I forgot to bring it. So that's the real excuse. Well, guys, I'm extremely tired, but I got a lot of work done today. And this has gotten a little bit of work done too. I'll charge that up. And we have 39%. That's pretty good. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Took a long time to make. Did a lot during it. Thank you very much for watching. See ya.